A topic is not an argument. And actually, every single slide you make should have an argument, a thesis statement, the one thing that you want them to believe. So I really think about every slide in two components, right? Or really three parts. First, there's the signpost, the problem, the solution, the team. That tells the ADD venture capitalist who's not paying that much attention where they are in the presentation. Okay, that's one. Then you have the thesis statement, the headline, or the argument you're trying to make. Cabs suck. You'll notice that Uber has none of those two things. It has a topic, but it doesn't really tell you what the signpost is, and it doesn't have an argument. Now, the rest of it is just the reason to believe the art, like the evidence for your claim. Why do cabs suck? Cabs suck because there's no two-way communication, they're gross, etc., etc. So that is how you build a much better problem slide. Let's derive a few a few takeaways from this. First, lead with the pain. There should be a painful problem that you know exactly who's hurting and why they're hurting. Second, say what you actually mean. Don't say cabs in 2008, say cabs suck. Figure out what the argument is you're trying to make and make that argument. Now, this is the last piece, and this leads really nicely into solution. Only talk about problems you can actually solve. So one of the problems that Uber identified is that Crown Victorias get 14 miles per gallon. A lot of Ubers at that time also got roughly the same gas mileage. So he made an argument about the environment that he actually could not solve. It's a red herring. Talk about the problems you can actually solve, not about all the possible problems in the space. Okay? So get narrow on the problem, and the solution should very tightly match each other. Okay? So we talked about the problem. Now let's talk about the solution and how to get that solution to really come across in a very clean way. This is a real client slide. I redacted it and changed it so they wouldn't recognize it themselves. But this was a company that made rocket engines. They've now raised a ton of money and are flying real rockets, which is super fun. I helped them really early and have been helping them over the years since then. But again, they have a photo. The photo is decoration, not communication. Doesn't really help move the ball forward. It does have the signpost. It says that this is a solution slide. That's good. But why is that the biggest font on the slide? That's not a big deal. I just want to know it's the solution slide. That's not the thing that should take the most of my attention. Then they do not have an argument here. You actually have to read a dense paragraph to understand what they're trying to say. And the paragraph more or less says that we think the fuel efficiency, it'll have a 5% total fuel efficiency gain. That's nice, okay? 5% seems nice, but is that actually worth money? I don't know, because I don't know much about rockets. You have to assume that even your sophisticated venture capitalists don't know very much about your space. It has to be accessible to them instantly, while also being plausible to the experts. Here's how I rebuilt this slide. Our solution is that we can 5x every rocket's payload. Our greater fuel efficiency means that you can reduce the amount of gas at takeoff and therefore 5x the actual payload. Now, it took me a long time to discover this because my client was very technical. He had a PhD. He was literally a rocket scientist. And he instantly knew that a 5% reduction or a 5% improvement in efficiency, because 99.9% of the weight of a rocket at takeoff is gas. He knew that 5% was equivalent to 5x. But he was talking about the intermediate, nerdy efficiency point rather than the outcome, the thing that actually matters, the thing that's actually worth dollars. No one will pay you for an increase in efficiency. People will pay you for an increase in payload. And so you have to understand, even though it's magical to you, is it clear that is magical to your user? Is that clear that's magical to your audience? And you have to be very careful and think deeply about that to make sure you're getting that point across. And so here we went from 5% to 5x. Of course, there's lots of other things going on with the slide that make it work better, but let's just talk about a few of them. The first one is talk about benefits, not features. No one cares about your features. I once had a venture capitalist tell me, I won't quite swear as violently as he did, but he said, no one cares about your effing technology. What he meant by that is no one cares what your features are, how it actually works under the hood. I want to know that, but I only want to know that after I know you can produce a magical outcome. Lead with the magical benefit, not the feature. Second, it's what you do, not how you do it. We get to the how a little bit later. Oftentimes, people try to cram in the benefits and the features on one slide or a deep explanation of the technical elements before you've even sold me that this is worth understanding. First, show the benefits, show the what, and then you can get to the features and the how. And that third point, make it sexy. If this thing shouldn't, like, this is the solution slide should be the pinnacle, it should blow their socks off. If it isn't the sexiest slide in the deck, you're probably leaving money on the table.